My name is Addison and I graduated from college with a degree in computer science. Unlike most of my classmates who were frantically networking and job hunting their senior year, I already had my position locked down. During my junior year, I received an offer from NextGen Solutions, a growing tech startup that was impressed with my algorithm optimization work during my summer internship. The salary package was substantial enough that I could have easily afforded a nice apartment in the tech district right after graduation. But I didn't. Addison, we were wondering if you might consider staying home a little longer, Elaine said one evening as we gathered around our dining table. Howard shifted uncomfortably beside her, his eyes fixed on his plate. What do you mean? I thought you two were looking forward to having the house back to yourselves, I replied, my chest tightening with confusion as I read the tension in their faces. Howard cleared his throat, the sound unnervingly loud in the quiet room. The truth is, sweetheart, these medical bills have been piling up faster than we expected. Your mother's treatments aren't fully covered by insurance, and the mortgage refinance didn't help as much as we'd hoped. If you could stay, Elaine added, her fingers nervously twisting her napkin, and perhaps contribute to the household expenses, it would be such a relief for us both. I studied their anxious expressions, my stomach nodding with conflicting emotions. These were the people who had supported my education, who had bragged about their computer genius daughter to everyone who would listen. Despite the apartment listings I'd been bookmarking for months, I couldn't bring myself to say no. How much would make a difference? I asked, already calculating adjustments to my financial independence timeline. The relief flooded their faces instantly, their shoulders visibly relaxing. Maybe $2,000 a month, Howard ventured cautiously, for the mortgage and medical expenses. And just like that, at 24 years old, I became the financial foundation for my parents while my peers were furnishing their first apartments and planning weekend getaways. I transferred the money punctually on the first of each month, watching my savings grow more slowly but steadily nonetheless. My wardrobe remained practical, my car reliable but unassuming. Every purchase was weighed against my strategic goal of eventual independence. My sister Vanessa operated with an entirely different financial philosophy. At 32, she was married to her college boyfriend Bryant, with an 8-year-old son named Mason. Their social media portrayed a glamorous life in a luxury apartment downtown, though their actual financial situation told a completely different story. Oh. My. God. Addison. Are you seriously wearing that ancient top again? Vanessa exclaimed during our regular Sunday family gathering. She was sprawled across our parents' sofa, one hand scrolling through Instagram while periodically glancing up to ensure her perfectly arranged family photo backdrop remained intact. Bryant and Howard watched the game while Elaine tried to coax Mason away from his tablet. I glanced down at my simple navy button-up. What's wrong with it? She rolled her eyes with theatrical flair, her freshly manicured nails continuing to tap at her screen. I literally saw you wearing it in your LinkedIn profile pic from last year. Don't you ever update your wardrobe? The Balenciaga spring collection dropped weeks ago. My clothes are functional and professional, I replied evenly, feeling the familiar irritation bubbling up inside me while keeping my face carefully neutral. This is exactly why you're still single, she said with a smirk that twisted something painful in my chest. No decent guy wants a woman who dresses like she's perpetually heading to a coding interview. I bit back the observation that while my investment account showed steady growth, her Instagram-worthy lifestyle was built on maxed-out credit cards and Bryant's increasingly precarious financial maneuvers. Vanessa worked part-time at an upscale boutique to stay connected with fashion trends according to her social posts, but their combined income evaporated on designer clothes, trendy restaurants with perfect photo lighting, and whatever else would generate the most impressive content for her followers that week. Hey Addison, Vanessa whispered later that same day, cornering me in the kitchen while I loaded the dishwasher. Her voice had transformed from cutting to syrupy sweet. I need to ask a tiny favor. Could you transfer me $350? There's this limited edition crossbody bag that would be perfect for my lifestyle content, and my account's a little tight this month. My stomach sank as I recognized the familiar pattern unfolding again. The notification sounds from my banking app had become almost as recognizable as her ringtone. "Fine," I said, wiping my hands on a dish towel, my eyes avoiding her perfectly expectant expression. "You're absolutely amazing." She squeezed my arm, her freshly done nails digging slightly into my skin. "This is exactly why you're my favorite sister." "I'm your only sister," I reminded her, but she had already turned away, fingers flying across her phone screen, undoubtedly messaging her followers about her latest fashion investment. When I wasn't performing my day job responsibilities, my evenings were consumed by my side project, an AI-powered cloud security system that could revolutionize how businesses protected their sensitive data. My innovation would integrate with existing network infrastructure but add machine learning threat detection and intuitive user controls that current enterprise solutions lacked. "Addison, it's past midnight. Are you still on that computer?" Elaine sighed, hovering in my doorway in her worn bathrobe, the blue light from my monitors reflecting off her worried face. "Your screen is driving up our electricity bill." "Almost finished with this algorithm," I replied, my eyes fixed on the code that was finally starting to flow after hours of frustration. "All she does is stare at those screens," I heard Howard mutter to Elaine as they retreated down the hallway. "No wonder she can't meet someone special." I didn't waste energy correcting their misconception. The gap between their understanding of my Netflix binging and my actual development of potentially revolutionary security architecture was too vast to bridge at this hour. Sometimes strategic silence was the most efficient path forward. Little did I realize that my carefully structured life of financial planning and covert coding was about to crash like an untested program in ways I couldn't have debugged in advance. The first warning appeared on a Tuesday evening when I returned from work to find unfamiliar cars filling our driveway and our security keypad blinking with a changed entry code. Inside was chaos. The living room overflowed with stacked designer luggage, furniture draped in protective covers, and boxes labeled with Vanessa's distinctive handwriting. My sister was directing Elaine and Howard like hired movers while simultaneously filming the transition for her Instagram stories. "What's happening here?" I asked, frozen in the entryway, my laptop bag still slung over my shoulder. "Are you actually moving in?" Bryant emerged from the hallway, the confident financial manager I remembered now looking deflated, his expensive watch and custom suit unable to mask his defeated expression. Bryant lost his position, Vanessa announced before he could speak, her phone still recording. "The betrayal is absolutely unbelievable. His own business partner threw him under the bus." "What exactly happened?" I asked, looking directly at Bryant, who suddenly found the crown molding fascinating. "It's complicated. The firm called it unauthorized fund allocation," he muttered, adjusting his designer watch. "He was temporarily leveraging investor capital," Vanessa explained, her defensive tone contradicting her social media smile. "He was absolutely going to replace it after his crypto investments matured. His so-called partner discovered the transactions during their quarterly review and completely overreacted." "So he was embezzling?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in my head. The room fell silent except for the notification sounds from Vanessa's phone. Elaine and Howard exchanged those familiar looks of discomfort and willful ignorance. "That's a cruel accusation," Vanessa snapped, her phone finally lowered. "His partner simply requested the funds be returned and Bryant resign quietly. That arrangement seems more than generous considering." "Generous? Real business partners stand by each other," Vanessa cut herself off, her voice rising while her perfectly manicured finger jabbed the air. "They understand temporary financial strategies during market volatility." I abandoned the pursuit of logic, recognizing the futility of rational discussion in this emotional theater. Instead, I observed silently as my sister transformed my parents' home into her personal staging area, issuing directives through both verbal commands and constant social media updates, while contributing nothing beyond content creation. During dinner, Elaine nervously announced that Vanessa, Bryant, and Mason would be staying just until they re-established their financial foundation. I nodded mechanically while mentally activating my contingency protocols for what I knew was approaching, a systematic dismantling of my carefully constructed life. The disruption I had predicted materialized immediately. My structured, efficient life disintegrated beneath the chaos of having Vanessa's family occupying our shared space. Bryant secured new employment within 14 days, but, as he bitterly informed anyone within earshot, the compensation was barely 40% of his previous package. Vanessa maintained her part-time position at the luxury boutique, carefully scheduling just enough hours to claim she was contributing to the household economy while primarily using the employee discount to maintain her wardrobe for Instagram posts. "This chicken is completely tasteless," Vanessa complained during dinner, dramatically pushing her plate aside while capturing the moment for her followers. "Mom, don't you follow any food influencers? We used to have standing reservations at Emilio's every Thursday. Their food photography opportunities were incredible." Rather than defending her cooking or suggesting Vanessa prepare meals herself, Elaine just nodded apologetically. "I'm so sorry, sweetie. I'll look up some better recipes online." I took another bite of the perfectly acceptable chicken, my jaw tight with silent frustration. The household dynamic had undergone a complete transformation. Somehow, Vanessa had become the gravitational center of everyone's attention and concern. Her inconveniences were family emergencies, her observations were profound insights requiring immediate action, and I had been reduced to the household financial algorithm, inputting funds while remaining otherwise invisible. One night, I was deep in debugging my security system's neural network when Vanessa invaded my room without warning or notification. "I need you to transfer $500, she stated flatly, skipping her usual performative pleasantries. "Mason needs the new limited edition Nikes for his social development, and we're taking him to Adventure World this weekend. His anxiety levels have been spiking since our housing transition." "Didn't Bryant just receive his paycheck?" I asked, minimizing my code window. "We have other financial priorities," she snapped, her friendly mask completely dropped. "Are you going to support your nephew or not?" I capitulated that instance, but when she made another demand the following week, I finally established boundaries. "Have you considered transitioning to full-time employment?" I suggested during dinner after she had publicly requested funds, clearly calculating that social pressure would ensure my compliance. "The boutique is actively recruiting. I noticed their hiring announcement on their storefront." Vanessa's face flushed with genuine emotion for once. "I can't believe how insensitive you're being. You know perfectly well I need schedule flexibility for Mason's after-school supervision and my content creation." "Elaine and Howard are consistently present," I countered, logic overriding diplomacy. "They could provide childcare during extended work hours." "That completely misses the point," she shouted, throwing her napkin dramatically before storming out, the perfect exit for her Instagram story. Bryant followed, giving me a contemptuous glare that contrasted sharply with his private admissions of financial anxiety. Elaine shook her head disapprovingly. "Addison, how could you be so callous? Your sister's family is experiencing significant transition challenges." "We're all experiencing significant challenges," I murmured, but my words disappeared into the void of family dynamics. Vanessa maintained her digital silence toward me for a full week following our confrontation, which provided a welcome opportunity to focus. I utilized these uninterrupted hours to finalize my cloud security system. After countless late nights and weekend coding marathons, my innovation was finally ready for professional evaluation. "This architecture is absolutely revolutionary," Dominic remarked, his expression transforming from professional interest to genuine amazement as I demonstrated the system's capabilities in the glass-walled conference room. His eyes widened as I showcased the AI-driven threat detection, automated network protection protocols, and customizable security dashboard. "The user experience design is exceptionally intuitive, and these algorithms. Did you develop this entire framework independently?" I nodded, maintaining my professional composure despite the surge of pride flowing through me. "It's been my independent project for some time now." Dominic leaned back in his ergonomic chair, studying me with newfound appreciation. Addison, this could fundamentally transform enterprise security architecture. Our company could establish market dominance with exclusive rights to this technology. My heart pounded against my ribcage, the smartwatch on my wrist silently registering the spike in my heart rate. This was the validation I had meticulously worked toward. I'm prepared to offer you $750,000 for complete intellectual property rights, plus equity shares and ongoing revenue percentage, he stated, his eyes locked on mine. Does that structure align with your expectations? I carefully maintained my composure despite the adrenaline surging through my system. $750,000, plus equity and royalties. The financial independence calculations I'd been running for years suddenly compressed from decades to months. The terms sound acceptable, I replied with practiced casualness, as though seven-figure negotiations were routine occurrences in my life. We digitally signed the preliminary agreement, and I exited the building in a state of controlled euphoria. I had just achieved financial liberation through my own intellectual creation. During my drive home, I made a strategic decision: this transaction would remain strictly confidential from my family. If they discovered my sudden wealth, those resources would inevitably be redirected toward Vanessa's lifestyle content production or my parents' facilitation of her unrealistic financial expectations. This was my pathway to independence, and I refused to allow it to be diverted. That evening, I contacted a real estate connection, Rachel, who had recently helped a colleague secure premium housing. I need to acquire my own residence, I explained over the phone, speaking quietly from my car in the driveway. I'm looking to purchase a high-security condominium near the tech corridor, with immediate availability. Can you assist with this requirement? Definitely. I have several listings that would perfectly match your specifications. Let's connect tomorrow after your workday concludes. When I entered the house, I discovered the entire family assembled in the living room, an unusual configuration for a weeknight. Their conversation abruptly ceased as I appeared, their expressions revealing a mixture of determination and discomfort. Addison, we need to discuss something important, Elaine said, gesturing toward the empty space beside her on the sofa. I seated myself cautiously, immediately analyzing the room dynamics. What's happening? Howard cleared his throat uncomfortably. We've been reviewing our household expenses, and with 7 people now living under one roof, the financial situation has become increasingly strained. The utility consumption has nearly doubled, and the grocery costs, you wouldn't believe how much a growing child with specific dietary preferences requires. What your father is attempting to express, Elaine continued with careful diplomacy, is that we were hoping you might consider increasing your contribution to the household expenses. The $2,000 you've been providing simply isn't sufficient to cover our current necessities. I scanned the assembled family members. My parents projected embarrassment tinged with hopeful expectation. Vanessa was intently examining her freshly manicured nails, performatively distancing herself from this conversation, though her digital fingerprints were clearly all over it. Bryant, to his minimal credit, maintained an expression of authentic discomfort. Are Vanessa and Bryant contributing any financial resources? I asked, my tone carefully measured despite the pressure building within me. Elaine and Howard exchanged meaningful glances. Well, they're navigating a significant financial readjustment period, Elaine explained gently. And you're a single professional without dependents. Your financial flexibility allows you to provide additional support during this family challenge. I inhaled deeply, mentally counting to 10 while calculating exactly how this would impact my independence timeline. What specific amount are you proposing? We were considering approximately $3,000 monthly, Howard suggested, his voice betraying his discomfort with the request. I wanted to laugh bitterly, break down completely, or express my outrage. Instead, I maintained my composed exterior while internal alarms screamed. Understood. Effective immediately. Vanessa finally lifted her gaze, a subtle victorious smile playing across her perfectly glossed lips. She believed she had successfully manipulated the situation. She had no idea how temporary her perceived triumph would be. 3 days later, I met Rachel at an exclusive smart building development 8 minutes from my corporate campus. The 2-bedroom unit she showed me exceeded expectations: modern open-concept design, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a spacious balcony with city views. I utilized a portion of my technology acquisition payment to purchase it outright, electronically signing the ownership transfer documents that afternoon. While discreetly organizing the delivery of essential furnishings to my new residence, I detected concerning behavioral patterns at my parents' house. Elaine, Howard, and Vanessa repeatedly exchanged meaningful glances during meals, their digital devices constantly pinging with group messages that excluded me. Bryant primarily maintained a low profile, concentrating on his meal while occasionally assisting Mason with his dinner. Their synchronized behavior patterns indicated a coordinated plan was being implemented, though I couldn't determine the specific objective. I didn't require extensive data collection to discover the truth. 2 days later, I returned from work to discover my possessions unceremoniously piled in the hallway: my technical reference books, professional wardrobe, high-performance laptop, and even my childhood chess set were haphazardly stacked without protection. "What the hell?" I whispered, dropping my messenger bag and immediately proceeding to my bedroom. Except it was no longer my bedroom. Mason sat cross-legged on what had been my bed, now covered with gaming-themed bedding, intensely focused on his tablet. The walls that had previously displayed my academic achievements and professional certifications now showcased superhero posters and gaming memorabilia. My ergonomic workstation where I'd architected my security system had vanished, replaced by a child-sized activity table covered with electronic devices and gaming accessories. "Aunt Addison!" Mason exclaimed, glancing up momentarily from his screen. "Check out my awesome new gaming station. Isn't it epic?" Before I could respond, Vanessa materialized in the doorway behind me. "Oh, you're back," she remarked, her tone indicating this confrontation was precisely as scheduled. "What exactly is happening here?" I asked, my voice unnaturally controlled despite the fury crackling through my nervous system. "We reconfigured the space for Mason," she explained with a dismissive gesture, as though this radical property reassignment was entirely reasonable. "He requires adequate space for his educational technology and creative development tools." "And where exactly am I expected to sleep and work?" I inquired, each word precisely measured. Elaine appeared behind Vanessa, anxiously twisting her wedding band. "Addison, sweetie, we thought since you're rarely present in the evenings anyway, always at the office or absorbed in your computer activities, you wouldn't mind utilizing the sofa in the common area." I shifted my gaze between Elaine and Vanessa, the latter not bothering to conceal her triumphant expression. "So you relocated all my possessions without any consultation or consent?" "We anticipated unnecessary resistance if we discussed it beforehand," Vanessa stated matter-of-factly. "And Mason absolutely required the expanded space. His previous room was inadequately proportioned for his developmental needs. Regarding his former room, why wasn't that space allocated to me?" I questioned, my analytical mind already processing the obvious inconsistency. Vanessa and Elaine exchanged another of those coordinated glances I'd been monitoring. "Well," Elaine explained hesitantly, "we determined Vanessa required a dedicated content creation studio. You understand how extensive her wardrobe collection is, and their current room lacks adequate space for her fashion inventory and photography setup." I stared at them, momentarily processing this unprecedented boundary violation. They had effectively evicted me from my personal space, the room I'd occupied since childhood, the space I was essentially financing with my $3,000 monthly contribution, to create an influencer studio for my sister, who contributed nothing to the household budget beyond occasional social media mentions. I surveyed her designer ensemble, glanced at my carelessly displaced possessions in the hallway, and something fundamental shifted within my psychological framework. But rather than expressing the emotional outburst they likely anticipated, I simply nodded with unexpected calm. "That arrangement works perfectly," I stated with remarkable composure. "I won't require the sofa accommodation because I'll be residing in my own condominium effective immediately." Vanessa's laughter held a dismissive edge. Right, your fictional luxury condo. Give it up, Addison. We're fully aware you don't possess independent housing. I actually do, I countered, my voice steady. I purchased it last week. I had planned to inform everyone this weekend, but your actions have effectively accelerated my timeline. Elaine and Vanessa stared at me as though I'd suddenly started speaking in complex algorithms. You purchased a condominium? Elaine asked incredulously. How? Through what financing mechanism? That particular detail is irrelevant, I replied, turning toward the stairway. What matters is that I'm relocating. Today. I proceeded to the living room and contacted a professional moving service, securing their earliest available appointment, which happened to be 7 a.m. the following morning. I then messaged Dominic requesting a personal day. Throughout these arrangements, my family circled anxiously, their expressions transforming from skepticism to mounting concern. Addison, this reaction seems disproportionate, Howard stated, finally joining the conversation after entering from the garage. I'm entirely serious about this decision, I responded, concluding my conversation with the moving coordinator. They'll arrive at 7 a.m. tomorrow to transport my possessions. We need to discuss this situation rationally, Elaine implored. If the room reassignment is problematic, we can develop alternative arrangements. Perhaps Mason could temporarily share our space, or… This isn't about spatial allocation, I interrupted, my carefully maintained composure finally revealing emotion. This concerns fundamental respect, personal boundaries, and the fact that I contribute $3,000 monthly to this household, yet you consistently prioritize everyone's needs above mine. Vanessa, who had maintained uncharacteristic silence, suddenly interjected. Wait, you've actually purchased property? Through what financial means? You're merely an entry-level developer. I avoided direct engagement with her question. I need to organize my remaining possessions now, I stated, moving purposefully toward the disorganized pile in the hallway. The following morning, the moving professionals arrived precisely at 7 a.m. I directed them to the collection of belongings in the hallway, which had expanded as I systematically gathered my remaining possessions from throughout the house. My family observed in stunned silence as the crew efficiently transferred box after box into their vehicle. Where precisely is this property located? Howard finally inquired as I conducted a final inspection to ensure nothing essential remained. In proximity to my workplace, I responded with deliberate vagueness. What was the acquisition cost? Vanessa demanded. And through what financing mechanism did you obtain it? I turned to face my assembled family, who were positioned in the living room observing my departure with expressions ranging from confusion to defensive hostility. That information exists outside your access permissions. We're your family unit, Elaine protested, her voice catching with genuine distress. That inherently grants us access to such data. Family connections operate on reciprocal protocols, Mom, I responded, feeling my chest tighten with emotions I rarely allowed myself to express. For an extended period, that reciprocity has been fundamentally unbalanced in this household. What precisely does that statement imply? Vanessa challenged, her perfect posture becoming increasingly defensive. It means I'm terminating my function as everyone's financial backup system, I stated directly. I'm done transferring funds that receive minimal acknowledgement, are perpetually inadequate, and are consistently misallocated. So you're abandoning your family responsibilities? Elaine asked, tears forming in her eyes. How will we manage our financial obligations? Our household necessities? That requires strategic planning on your part, I replied evenly. Vanessa and Bryant are functioning adults with employment. Perhaps they could implement actual financial contributions for once. We can barely maintain our own essential expenses, Vanessa protested, her carefully crafted image momentarily slipping. Then perhaps a comprehensive reevaluation of your consumption patterns would be advisable, I suggested, my voice remaining steady despite my internal turmoil. Vanessa's complexion flushed with genuine anger. You know what? I believe you should transfer ownership of your property to us. Our need clearly exceeds yours. We're responsible for a developing child. I couldn't suppress it, a genuine laugh escaped me. The sheer entitlement was almost mathematically impressive in its magnitude. Negative, Vanessa. I will not transfer my property to you. In fact, I won't be transferring anything to you anymore. Ms. Harris? The moving coordinator appeared in the entryway. We've successfully loaded all identified items. Are you prepared to depart? I nodded, collecting my messenger bag containing my essential devices. I'm ready. Addison, please reconsider. Elaine attempted one final emotional appeal. Don't disconnect from us like this. I'll establish communication in approximately 72 hours, I said, making no commitments beyond that basic courtesy. Goodbye. I followed the moving vehicle to my new residence, a profound sense of personal autonomy expanding with each mile that increased the distance between myself and my family's house. For the first time since entering adulthood, I was prioritizing my own well-being in my decision algorithm, and the psychological impact was unexpectedly positive. The subsequent days passed in a productive blur of unpacking, coordinating furniture deliveries, and establishing utility services. I maintained my communication devices in powered-off status for the majority of this period, knowing they would be inundated with messages from my family. When I finally reactivated my phone, my prediction was confirmed, dozens of missed connections and text messages displayed on my screen, ranging from outright hostility to emotional manipulation to strategic guilt induction. After maintaining communication silence for 7 days, I made the decision to visit my parents' residence. My objective was to engage in a rational, measured discussion regarding personal boundaries and mutual expectations. When I navigated into their driveway that Saturday morning, I detected movement behind the curtains. They had been monitoring for my arrival. I had barely reached the entrance before the door swung open. Elaine immediately enveloped me in a tight embrace. "Thank goodness you've returned," she exclaimed, visible relief transforming her expression. "We've been experiencing significant concern." Howard appeared in the background, his expression conveying a contradictory mixture of happiness and discomfort. Vanessa and Bryant were already positioned in the living room, with Mason engaged with his gaming device on the floor. "I'm not relocating back here," I clarified immediately, preventing any misinterpretation of my visit. "I'm here solely for communication purposes." "We completely comprehend that," Elaine assured me, guiding me inside. "We've been engaged in significant reflection as well." I doubted the accuracy of that statement, but I accepted a seat nonetheless. "Addison," Howard began, his tone conciliatory, "we recognize our error in judgment. Your room remains available whenever you wish to reclaim it. Mason has returned to his previous accommodation." "And I abandoned the influencer studio concept," Vanessa interjected quickly. "I can accommodate my wardrobe within our existing space." I observed their expectant expressions. "I appreciate the gesture, but I'm experiencing significant satisfaction with my new living arrangement." "But we genuinely miss your presence," Elaine admitted. "And we require your assistance." There it was, the authentic motivation behind their apparent change of perspective. "You require my financial contributions," I clarified without accusation. No one attempted to contradict this assessment. "We could establish a mutually beneficial arrangement," Vanessa proposed, her entrepreneurial tone activating. "You could maintain your property while continuing to provide household support. Alternatively, we could relocate to your condominium, and you could reclaim this residence." I nearly laughed at the transparent calculation behind her proposal. "Negative, Vanessa. I will not transfer either my property or my financial resources to you." "That's completely inequitable," she exclaimed, momentarily dropping her carefully crafted social media persona. "You're pathologically self-centered. How did you even finance a property acquisition? You must have been concealing financial assets from us for years." "I monetized a security system I developed," I stated matter-of-factly. "The cloud security architecture I engineered during evening hours, the project you collectively misidentified as recreational computer usage. My company acquired it for $750,000, plus equity shares and ongoing revenue percentage. The silence that descended was absolute and profound. $750,000? Bryant finally whispered, genuine shock overriding his practiced indifference. Elaine appeared physically destabilized by this revelation. Why did you withhold this information? Howard questioned. Because I accurately predicted the outcome, I replied with complete honesty. You would have constructed justifications for why those resources should be redirected to your priorities rather than mine. No one attempted to challenge this assessment. So you're simply severing family connections? Vanessa asked, her tone transitioning to practiced victimhood. After everything we've sacrificed for you? I rose from my seated position. What specific contributions have you made to my development, Vanessa? Requesting funds you never reimburse? Criticizing my professional wardrobe? Relocating my possessions without consent? She offered no counterargument. I will always maintain my biological connection as your daughter and sister, I stated, making deliberate eye contact with each family member, but I will no longer function as your financial institution. As I exited through the doorway, I registered their accusations of ingratitude, selfishness, and emotional detachment, but for the first time in my experience, those verbal weapons failed to inflict psychological damage. 1 year has passed since that decisive separation. My communication with my family has been minimal. They have attempted to re-establish connection, but invariably with financial objectives disguised as reconciliation efforts. Through professional network contacts, I've learned they continue to cohabitate, perpetually discussing financial constraints, and now lamenting my family abandonment. Meanwhile, my personal and professional development has accelerated exponentially. My smart home condominium functions perfectly, my career trajectory has advanced significantly, and the equity from my security architecture continues generating substantial returns. I've initiated international travel experiences, upgraded my professional wardrobe though still prioritizing function over Vanessa's definition of fashion, and entered a relationship with someone who values my strategic thinking and pragmatic approach to life. Occasionally I question the ethical implications of my decision, but then I recall their treatment pattern, not as a valued family member deserving respect, but as a utilitarian resource to be exploited, and I recognize that establishing independence wasn't an act of selfishness. It was essential psychological self-preservation and the foundation for authentic personal growth.